corruption remain, but there are positive economic stories. Growth in sub-Saharan Africa is expected to outstrip the global average in the next 3 years. Ghana is one of those countries riding the crest of this economic wave. It's grown an average of 8.4% for the last 5 years. Much of that is down to the growing middle class spending more money at home and boosting the service sector. It now accounts for 48.5% of all production in the country. Well, George Alagaya, who lived in Ghana as a child, has been back and sent this report from the capital, Accra.
First, there were the Asian tigers. Now meet the African lions. From building sites to stock exchanges, the continent is seeing a surge in economic activity. Growth rates here put much of the rest of the world into the shade, and Ghana is in the vanguard.
This would be your sitting room, very large spaces so that you have the feel of a comfortable area.
Ghanaians who might once have taken their money abroad are now splashing out at home. All that spending is fueling an economy that's no longer quite as dependent on traditional exports. Ghanaians are reaping the benefits of more than a decade of political stability.
I think for the first time, the African story is not just a commodity story, but it's also one of expanding income, expanding opportunity, a growing middle class.
You talk about this newfound growth, but is everybody sharing in it, or are some people simply being left behind?
I certainly think we can do better as a country.
Government expenditure on education ought to help redress that imbalance. Spending has gone up and literacy rates with it.
I went to school here, probably even before your parents were born.
It was a little after independence, a time of unbridled optimism.
So which one do you think I am? That's it, this guy here. So Elsie, what do you want to be?
I want to be a banker.
You want to be a banker?
A doctor.
You want to be a doctor, and why do you want to be a doctor?
Because I like taking care of sick people.
A lawyer.
But no one said they wanted to be a scientist or an engineer, the skills the country will need if it's to expand its still nascent manufacturing sector. At 70,000 bottles an hour, this is one of the country's most successful drinks producers.
Well, this is Mondia.
The biochemists here are trying to give a new African twist to the old business of a good night out.
So what Stevens and his team are doing is taking a practice that's centuries old, mixing alcohol with traditional roots and herbs, only now they're doing it on an industrial scale.
With a £20 million investment in new plant, the company is targeting the wider African market. Its founder says either he does it or the multinationals will.
So it's a hard time that we ourselves, take that opportunity and then utilize it ourselves instead of waiting for the foreigners to come for it.
For Ghana, the key to sustaining its success is making sure there are enough jobs when these pupils are done with education. By that measure, there's still some way to go. George Alagaya, BBC News, Accra.
And tomorrow, in the last of this week's series on the changing face of Africa, we'll be looking at whether the continent's largest economy, South Africa, is missing out on the economic boom. It's one of the world's best-known brands, bought and used by millions of people around the world. But the technology giant Apple is also accused of being one of America's largest tax avoiders. An investigation by a US Senate committee claims the company effectively shifts billions of dollars in profits offshore to reduce its tax bill. Apple's chief executive has strenuously denied the accusation. Our chief economics correspondent Hugh Pym reports.
It's a global brand and its devices are used in countries around the world. Apple's been hailed as an American success story, but now US politicians are accusing it of shunting